Welcome to Name 3 Songs. I'm Sarah Fagan.
I'm Jenna Million, and this is a podcast where we discuss feminist issues in music and pop culture, all while empowering fans.
Because let's be honest, fangirls knew about that band way before you did. And in today's episode, we're doing an artist interview with Trousdale, who are a trio that do country pop music. And I think it's really cool because the idea is like girl group, and you'll hear us use this term a lot during the interview, but there's so much more than that. And I feel like the term girl group has turned into kind of like a way to belittle these like groups of women who do music. But it's just really...
Do you think like in the same way boy band?
Yeah, in the same way boy band. I feel like it's that way where it's just like, oh, like they're not good enough just to be called a band, or like, oh, they're not interesting enough or anything like that. And so it's just really interesting because we did have like a very long discussion with them about this and how like the term has kind of moved along from like what it was in the earlier. Because even if you like go back in our old podcast episodes, we did do an episode about how girl groups from like the early 90s like had a lot to do with like the punk movement. And I feel like back then when you referred to a band as a girl group, it didn't mean the same thing as like now when people are just like, oh, it's just a girl group. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it was honestly like one of those conversations that just ends up feeling very empowering by the time we get to the end of it. So we have all those details coming up for you in a minute. And if you're new here or you're tuning back in to Name 3 Songs, this is the second interview of our season. We've been pre-recording a lot of these episodes. We're doing it all in person in New York, which is very exciting, sitting down in person with a lot of these artists. Last week, we spoke to Late Night Drive Home. Also, really great interview. We're really into them. And we're getting to have a lot of conversations that really resonate with the messages of this podcast and are really conversations where we can dig deep on different topics. And we're also going to be expanding on those different topics in our commentary episodes, which are dropping once or twice a month. And so, I mean, today, a lot of our topics relate back to in an episode we did a few weeks ago with author and journalist Sophie Gilbert and her book, Girl on Girl. A lot of these themes resonate with our conversation today. A lot of themes resonate across the podcast. So it's really cool to see all of this together. We have a lot to dig into. So if you're new here, we have a lot to dig into.
And if you want to keep up with everything, and if you want to know more about our interview with Trousdale, we're going to have a transcript on our Substack, which is name3songs.substack.com. So for every episode, to get like a preview of what's going on, what we've been talking about, who we've been talking to, you can sign up on Substack. You're going to get those emails in your inbox the day that these episodes come out. So that way you can get a preview before you listen to us talk to whomever we are talking to that day, whether that's just each other or a really awesome artist that we think you guys should know about. So if you like to go and read through things, have some subtitles, if you will, while you're listening to a podcast episode, you can do that through our Substack. But before we get into our interview today, we do have some fangirl nonsense, because every week what we like to do is talk about some things that have been going on in pop culture that we're obsessed with, that we can't stop thinking about. So we wanted to share what we've been obsessing over lately with you guys.
So with all that, let's get into our fangirl nonsense.
Jenna and I have been obsessing over Addison Rae lately. And if you are not new here, you know that I've been obsessed with Addison Rae since like her singles leaked like over 2 years ago?
Yeah, definitely.
Would not shut up about it. And now I'm just so happy that the rest of the world is on the same level as me.
Sarah was an OG. Sarah was the early fangirl for real.
So this is really exciting for me personally, because I think that what Addison is doing with pop music is really cool, especially with, number one, your debut album being a self-titled album feels a little bit crazy. Number two, this album was literally, she made this record with 3 other women. Like that's it. That's her team that she worked with. And I think that's just like so iconic. And she also did it in Sweden. And we all know that the best pop music is made in Sweden. Max Martin, we're talking about you.
I love that she is all hits, no skips.
She just like loves pop music, and I love that so much about her.
It's like so like breathy and airy and just like ethereal and like whatever, and you just want to like put it on and you're just like, yeah, like I'm in another world right now.
It's just so interesting because it's like, it really genuinely feels like this was always part of her plan. Like she was like, I'm gonna get on TikTok and I'm gonna do whatever I can to get people to pay attention to me, whether that's for good or bad reasons, and I'm going to keep doing it until I can do whatever I want. And like, even if that wasn't actually her mindset, it feels like it was.
Yeah.
Like, because her artist image is so put together. And I talk a lot about how we don't do development deals like we used to, where it's like finding a star and being like, I know you're a star, but there's nothing here yet, and then working on it behind the scenes. And it feels like that's what she was doing. It feels like she probably got discovered really quickly on TikTok and had a plan and went with it. And like, if you listen to the interviews she's been doing, she's been alluding to that idea. And I'm like, this is so clever. She is so likable. Like, I watched her on Chicken Shop Date and I was just like, you're so cute, but like in like a way where it's like I'm still taking her seriously. She's just like really bubbly and it feels like a genuine like 90s, early 2000s pop star kind of moment again. And I'm obsessed with it.
I mean, we talked about her, and I don't think it was a full episode. I think we talked about her in Fangirl Nonsense a few months back, like when she had her Diet Pepsi and the music video for that, because she's doing, it's like, she's taking Lana, she's taking Britney, like she's taking aspects of like stars before her and like making it her own in a very like, in the same way Sabrina Carpenter's doing it in a very kitschy, like
Camp kind of
satire, camp on the nose, like so is Addison Rae, but and it's whole in a very relatable, this girl is my friend kind of way.
Yeah.
It's just very cool to see, and it's throughout her all of her music videos. It's like she's so self-aware of everything and like doing everything on purpose, and also like having like bright pink hair and then dancing around like in Iceland or somewhere and like like yellow neon underwear and just like not caring. Like I love that for her so much.
Yeah,
That's what she's just what we need right now, you know?
it's incredible. So on our podcast at the beginning of this season, we talked to journalist and author Sophie Gilbert about her book called Girl on Girl, which is about the ways in which women are kind of forced to hate themselves through the idea of media and through like producer meddling on reality shows and just like the way that the media talks about artists like the Spice Girls or Madonna and all these types of things that we talk about on our podcast. So it genuinely was like one of the best guests we could have ever had on, and such an interesting book to hear her perspective on things, because we obviously are from America and she's from England, so also like our experiences growing up with the different types of media that we had and the different ways like
Barbie, like the way consumerism, capitalism, like what actually is moving the needle in terms of feminism. It was really cool to have the different perspective from the different decades of our lives. And look at how Barbie does like parallel and tie back to like Riot Girl and Spice Girls and all that. That's a really fascinating episode we have on our podcast feed, Named Her Songs, the interview with Sophie Gilbert for her book Girl on Girl. Highly recommend checking it out. A lot of those themes tie also into our interview today with Trousdale.
And the reasons why that podcast episode and our interview today with Trousdale are really intrinsically tied to each other is because they are a trio who do like country pop music who met in a college program, so like a university program that's supposed to be really competitive, and instead they found each other and were drawn to each other, and they're like, you know what if we team up together and make music together separately instead. And so they were kind of able to put aside, number one, the fact that in music women are pitted against each other throughout time and history. Like that is always something that happens. It is like a consistent thing that we see, whether that's Britney versus Christina or Sabrina versus Olivia Rodrigo or what have you. Like it has always happened. And so to see three girls in a super competitive program come together and be like, we're going to make our own group, we're going to make our own music, and that they've done it successfully. Like they're currently on tour with Maren Morris. So that's so cool. They're doing so many incredible things, and their music is really bridging the gap between genres as well. And so just kind of surpassing that idea of like, oh, these women can't work together, because all three of them sing and they all carry their own weight and they all have their own roles in the band, and nobody is more important than the other. They're all the star of the show, and I think that that's super, super impressive for a group of three women to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was just really cool to hear their dynamic in terms of they're both creative collaborators, they're also friends, and how they were able to build and develop their image and sound as an artist without having pressures from the music industry. And because they were able to do it in kind of a college environment where they were a little bit protected, they have this image where now they know going into industry, like we know what our boundaries are. We know what we stand for. And if people are trying to tell us differently, like that's not for us. And I think that's really special, because especially in country music, we know how much women get walked over in the country music industry. And like that's also to say like that is specifically country radio and country industry, but there are so many good country artists who are not like that whatsoever. And so it's like there's always a community for someone out there. So it's really interesting just to hear the perspective of how they've been able to develop themselves as artists and their relationship with their fans too.
And so with all that, let's go get candid with Trousdale.
So today we are sitting down with the lovely ladies of Trousdale. Welcome to the show, y'all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for spending your day with us in lovely New York.
Thank you. It is lovely.
Can you go down the line and introduce yourselves so everyone can hear your names and voices?
Yep. My name is Quinn.
My name is Georgia.
And I am Lauren.
So you guys just released your sophomore album, Growing Pains. Big congrats.
Thank you.
Came out earlier this April, and you've been busy touring, which is also so fun to be able to go see your fans immediately. You said that kind of going into the making of this record, that feedback from previous tours was that fans really loved your live sound, and that was something that you wanted to incorporate for this record. And so for it, you did a lot of like live recording in the studio. But I'm curious, like now that you've been able to perform a lot of these songs on tour, what has the reception been to new music, but also kind of this overall encompassing live version of Trousdale?
I feel like we were really pleasantly surprised by the reception of all the new stuff because it was so soon after we released the album that we were out on the road playing, especially like the first few shows. It had been like 2 weeks or something since the album had come out, and walking out, our first show was in Philly, and like walking out and having everyone singing along was like so cool. So we hadn't experienced that like first time hearing people singing our words in a while. So that was really amazing. And I think it translated really well to a live stage, and the audience reception was sick. Yeah, we went about this whole album in a totally different way because of that. And I think it made playing them live a lot easier.
Yeah. At first, our set list was packed with like every single song from the album because we were so excited to play all of them. And we didn't know like what the favorites were going to be. Usually, actually, previously, every time we've toured before, it's always been music that's been out for a really long time. So we kind of know which song is like doing the best online. But for this one, we just kind of had no idea. So it was like really, really inspiring to just play the music that we love so much, not knowing how people were going to respond. And since that first show, we've like made the set a little bit more refined, and we've like taken some songs out just because we were playing like an hour and 45-minute set, which is crazy a bit much.
Man. Obviously, there was like the feedback of like, oh, like you guys sound different live and better live, which is like the best compliment any can ever be given.
Are you sure?
Had the idea of recording live been something that you had thought about before, or was this like a new idea and new, like completely new experience for you guys?
It's definitely something we've considered before. We have a couple live recordings out from the deluxe version of our first album, and the new album ended up being kind of like a hybrid of studio and also live, because we had drums, bass, and electric guitar all tracking at the same time. And I think that really allowed all the songs on the record to kind of have this cohesive sound throughout. And then we kind of went in with the fine tooth comb and did our insane vocal recording days. Just for reference, I think we spent 6 days total recording the rhythm section for the song, and we spent I think a total of 13 days recording the vocals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we go pretty intense in the vocals, and I think at some point in the future, I think it would be so sick to do some more live recordings with true, like completely live recordings. But that's also just like, I think to really capture that well, you really just need a great space, which can be expensive.
Yeah. We also had our friend John Mark Nelson co-produce this album with us, and he brought the idea to us of like, I think you guys, we had met up with him for coffee because we were going through management change at that time. We were asking him for like feedback on any managers that he had worked with, and we now work with his managers, they're amazing. And he suggested that he thought we just needed to like get into a studio for like 2 weeks and record and like do it the way that we did it. So it was, I feel like it was kind of his suggestion to do what we did. And it was, now we've all said like, wow, we're never going back. Like that was such a game changing.
Well, it's kind of like you're finding your voices as a group and like how stylistically you want to be presented and everything.
Yes, right. Yes, totally. Yeah, and we've worked as a live band with live musicians for so many years. And so us getting back into like a rehearsal space with a band with a fresh song to be like, how do we want to approach this, feels like home to us. And I think we all shine in different ways in that space. Yeah. And the musicians that we work with also shine so much in a space like that. Instead of having like one instrument, one person recording all day for like 7 songs and us all sitting around them, listening to them, and then being like, at this measure, like change this note, and going through it again. It was just like musicians working together and like feeling the music more than like analyzing it. And I think you can hear that.
Very organic.
Yeah. And I think the songs just end up speaking for themselves that way, instead of us like putting something on the songs.
Yeah, that's amazing because it is quite organic, and then also like the way y'all met was like very organic, and having met in college and like already been friends, and a lot of times in the music industry when you see a girl group, it's not that's not usually the origin story,
Right.
And so, do you feel like this foundation of having such a solid friendship going into this has influenced the dynamic of the band and of even the album process?
100%. Yeah, I think we met in a pretty intense environment, like a pretty competitive program for music, for performing. And all of us had different experiences at that school, but our friendship, I mean, we started the band like literally like within the first couple weeks that we had met, just for fun. Like we didn't think it was going to be, or I didn't know, none of us knew that it was going to be like our career and our like lives, but the way that it started was so organic. The response that we got from the beginning was shocking because I always thought that I was going to have to be so intentional and like mathematical with my career, and always thought that I was always thinking about backup plans and like how was I going to figure it out. And when we met and we started singing together, it was like that feeling within all three of us of knowing that it was something magical, and then paired with the response of other people being like, this is something really special, was like, it was very organic, and we're very lucky that it happened that way. And the friendships really do help have such a strong foundation for disagreement, even because being in a band is like filled with conversations and communication. I mean, that's why so many bands break up, is because it's so tough to figure all the things out. And making an album, it's so personal to each of us. And with this one, we really wanted to make sure that all of our experiences and all of our individual journeys were kind of, those stories were told through the album. So this one really felt like it was showing how far our relationships with each other have come even. And our relationships have taken on a new life. I mean, we started as friends, and we're obviously really close friends, and we're like business partners, so it changes. So we could eat.
Like a lot of issues. It's just like that thing of like, oh, like what mindset, like even Jenna and I have it where it's like, okay, well, what mindset are we hanging out with?
Yes. Like, am I venting, or do we need to make like some serious changes? Within.
And I think that's really interesting. And it's, especially when it comes to the music part of things, because obviously it's like when you're songwriting, it's like very personal things that like as a listener, I would think even some topics would be difficult to even talk to your best friends about, where it's like you bring something forward and it's like, do we need to talk about this? So what has that experience been like for you guys? Because you all are singing. It's not like a situation where like you're gonna have to write music to this. It's like, no, you guys are gonna have to feel what I felt. So like, do you have to share to like a deeper extent than maybe you ever thought you would when it came to like the songwriting process?
Yeah, I mean, I love that question. I feel like such a big part of our friendship is sharing, obviously, in friendships, and like we all know so much about each other. I feel like I've always shared so much with you guys about my personal life, and that can be really easy inspiration for songwriting, to be honest. And I think all three of us are really honest with each other about our lives. And as our careers have become more seriously intertwined, I think it's important to hold boundaries with yourself of what you want to share and what you want to put into music. And then also know, like, for example, there's a song on our record called Warm Shoulder, Cold Heart, which is pretty directly based off of a breakup of mine that I was going through when we were writing it. And we went to this session, and it was really uncomfortable to be sharing like details of something that I was like going through in that moment with like them, but then also a stranger that we met that day, which now we know him well and he's really amazing. But I think this career is really interesting. Like, there's such a safe space between the three of us to share, and then when you bring somebody else into it, it adds like another element. That song was really personal. It elevated the song to me that they were singing it and writing it, because it was like, I always say I would not have written that song at that time if they hadn't been there, because my feelings were like, I just want this person back. I want them to change their mind. And they were like, angry for me. And so hearing them sing that song, and as we were writing it, it was so emotional and like really overwhelming. And having them be my best friends was like very safe to know that they were holding my truth so carefully and taking such care of my experience in that session. So I think overall, it's a beautiful thing. Like, songwriting is a way for us to take care of our friendship.
Yeah, to connect with each other. And I think we spend so much time together like most days we are seeing each other or we're like on a Zoom talking to each other. And I feel like when you see people almost every day, you do just like know what they're doing at like almost all times. So like I feel like it's not even much of an effort to be like, let me open myself up to them about this thing, unless it's something from like before we were close friends. Like for me at least, like you guys like know what I'm doing. Yeah, I like will explain like the tiniest details of like what I did at the grocery store to them. So like
Yeah.
you know, it's like it feels like we already have this basis of knowledge of each other and connection with each other. So I think it makes it a little bit easier for us to tap into like if this was someone's story or someone's start, like where are they coming at this idea from and what angle are they coming at it from and stepping into each other's shoes in that way. And then also trying to bring ourselves and like our ideas and our thoughts about things to the song and like meeting each other halfway.
It's pretty interesting because we talked to like another group that was kind of like a singer producer duo who were both in the band, and it was a similar thing of like they were saying like they don't think the story would have come across the same way if they hadn't have had each other to help like spring it out. So it's interesting because it's both like the layer of vulnerability as a songwriter, but then also like as a human being.
Yes.
And it's like if you're in a room with a bunch of writers you don't know you're meeting for the first time, like that is such a different vibe than having that connection already.
Yes, it's like we know what each other means when we say something. Like
Yes.
we know what that feeling is connected to, and then we can help each other see that idea through to its fullest potential.
Another thing that we have talked about is like when artists like revisit a song like years later where it's like the meaning changes because obviously it's like you've grown, you've thought about the thing that had happened, whatever. But I think it's interesting how you mentioned like you're feeling one thing and then they're feeling something else as your friend. So like how has that helped in regards to the songwriting of like making the songs feel fuller and like more of a journey than just like, oh, like I'm desperate for this or like, oh, like I'm mad about this or whatever. Like how does it feel to like have those extra emotions like coming into play?
Yeah, I mean, I think inherently, whenever the three of us are going in to write a song, there's just going to be three slightly, at least slightly, if not more, jarring, different perspectives on the same thing. And I think there's a certain degree of, at least for me, of I think sometimes I come into a songwriting session more as like an objective writer and thinking more about like the song structure and thinking about how am I going to write a song that or how am I going to bring my writing skills to the table to help get this story across, whatever that story may be. And other times it does feel more emotional where you are trying to sort of put name to a feeling that is hard to describe.
Yeah.
And I always have said, I think the best songs, the best lyrics are always thoughts first. And that, though that sounds really simple, but just sometimes I think that's like we're all just trying to get back to that. We're always just trying to like incorporate the human experience into a song.
That's really interesting because I'm just thinking, do you think about the listener when you're writing? Because I'm like that thing of what you just said of like sometimes the best lyrics is just a thought. If it's like, think about some of the most timeless songs of our generation. Like the thoughts are so simple, but then there's so much emotion behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like one lyric that I always think of is we have a song called Happy Anymore. And it's such a simple song. And literally like almost the entire chorus is the line, "You don't make me happy anymore." Just kind of like sung over and over again. And in one sense, it could be, you could say like, oh, this is pretty like simple and basic or whatever. But I think that there's so much to be said in the way that you frame something like that of like, sometimes it is that simple. I think people have so many complicated feelings around happiness and around joy or choosing things for yourself that like maybe just saying this thing doesn't make me happy anymore and like that's enough to say goodbye to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like playing with those things.
That's ever since we've really been playing shows live, like that comes into play with writing all the time. Like not every song when something is like very personal, vulnerable, like the vision is there, that's one thing. But I think if we're trying to bring it to an audience, like we're keeping them in mind all the time of like what people have responded to in a positive way, or like if we ourselves were at a show watching something, like what would we want to hear in this moment? And that definitely is incorporated into the writing.
I feel like there are certain truths that are just universal. And like whenever I'm in a writing session, I'm always trying to think of like what it is that I'm actually trying to say. Like you're saying, like what's the actual thought and feeling? And I feel like it's sometimes super shocking to be like, okay, that was a super vulnerable thought and feeling. And oh my God, we all feel that.
Yeah.
And that's like the beautiful thing about learning about your audience and thinking about your listener.
I mean, like the album is growing pains. There's obviously a lot of like challenges you've been through and put into song, but it still feels very empowering. Like overall, it still feels like there's a lot of self-empowerment there. Like, is this something that like y'all also agree with, or like I feel like fans must connect with it and like it feels very empowering for them to listen to also. And I'm curious if that's kind of just like the dynamic of your relationships of like being able to challenge each other a little bit of like, because it's also like when you have your friend, you're like, oh, I don't want you to feel bad. Like, I'm going to give you encouragement. Like, we're going to get this together. Yes. And so do you feel like that's kind of like this empowerment thing is like part of all of it?
Oh, I think it always is. I think a very accurate analysis of it too. I think that at the end of the day, we try to find a way to acknowledge what's happening as like a celebration of it. Yeah. And I think Growing Pains, with like everything all together, it's a celebration of the hard stuff, but also like the hard work and how far we've come and how grateful we are for it. And that's with our careers, that's with our relationships, that's with ourselves personally. Like everyone like goes through different things and it's all relative. But at the end of the day, if you're able to celebrate just the distance you've made so far, regardless of how far that even is, I think that in itself is a win. And I feel like we do that in the album in some way. That had to do with like titling it Growing Pains, of like talking about like as you're growing and it is painful, it's hard and you can feel the symptoms of that, but it's also symptoms of positive change being made, you know?
I think there's something so beautiful about the power of just hope in a song or in a story. I always have a tough time listening to songs that are just kind of lingering in the darkness and they just stay there, because I love a happy ending. Oh, I want a happy ending. Like, I want a happy ending for myself. I want a happy ending for my friends. I think that that's something that I always am trying to incorporate into a song while still acknowledging, I think a big theme that Trousdale sort of tends to focus around is that life is hard. Things can be really hard, and there's always tomorrow. Yeah, you're gonna get through it, and we can look forward and look past the hard things while still holding both at the same time.
100%. I think going off of that, we want to make music that we would listen to, you know, and that's harder to do alone because a lot of the time you're just like almost journaling songs. It's like a way to get your feelings and thoughts out, and inherently with the three of us, it's not that, you know, because we're bringing it to each other. So I love that. I almost never thought about what you said of our band kind of being encouraging and empowering, because it is very natural. I think just when we come together, those are the songs that we tend to write.
I think it's like very reflective of the people that we are.
Yeah. No, I think that that's really cool because, again, it's like the friendship aspect of it is shining through. And like we brought up before, but it's like the girl group situation is usually something, especially in pop music, where it is like, oh, like this has been formed kind of in a lab and it feels very like whatever, and you're lucky if you become friends. Like it doesn't always happen. Like you have the difference between like Little Mix and Fifth Harmony, where it's like Little Mix did become very good friends and Fifth Harmony maybe all hate each other and like wish death upon each other. It's an interesting dynamic because I feel like you can tell through the music, like even with like those bands where it's like, oh, you're listening and I'm just like, they literally don't care about each other.
Yeah. I feel they're like not even in the same room with each other when they're making it.
Yeah. And so I think that is that thing too, where it's like listening to your album, even just like the sound of it. And I think also probably the live aspect of Growing Pains like has a big part in that, but it feels just like people coming together and being like, okay, like let's like protect each other through this.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I do. Thank you. I feel like I was just thinking as you were saying that, part of our beginnings is that we were in this program together and we all had to watch each other like shine all the time. I remember so many classes. Our class was like live performance basically. So we were always playing music, and I remember watching Quinn, watching Lauren, like doing their thing and being like fans of them and being like, wow, they're so amazing. So I think part of our roots is just like this deep understanding of each other's potential and wanting each other, like genuinely wanting and knowing what each of us can do and like always holding that truth. And I think like healthy competition is good and like always challenging yourself to do better. And I think we all want each other to be like the growth that I've seen in both of you guys over the years. It just makes me feel so like, and me too. I feel like we're all becoming our fullest self through this band, and we want that for each other, which is it's cool.
You can't fake it.
Yeah, like wanting to bring each other down. I feel like you can tell too, like even I'm sure I'm extra sensitive to it, but seeing a trio of women in any form or more of like women that are in some group or a band together and like sensing when there's a lead or sensing when there's something that's maybe on like the business, like the back side of it, of like choices that are being made to push someone. I'm like so sensitive to that because of us and how hard we try to not do that. And it feels like that, just the idea of that is scary to me, seeing other people of what like the rest of their lives look like to them, of like, is that the choice they made? And we were so intentional about letting all three of us reach like our own potentials, because you just cover so much more ground that way. So much more ground of like, we're all so different and so good at so many different things, of like, why not let us all fly to like as far as we can go? Like we will reach more people by way too.
I feel like that's so important because like no matter where we get like in feminism, whatever, it's like there always is that thing of like the girl fight and like pitting girls against each other. Like even now it's like I always am like, oh, like we live in this era of streaming. You can have 50 favorite artists. Like you don't need to pick and choose. And yet even with like the Olivia Rodrigo, Sabrina Carpenter nonsense where they're like, oh, like let's put these people together and against each other. And it's like they literally make the most opposite sounding music. Like there's no reason for us to do this and like focus on that. So I think it's like number one, important, but also very like special and great to have like artists like this where you are like, yeah, we became friends, and it was also in like a very competitive atmosphere, because that's also like crazy to know like, oh, your school is kind of making you guys be separate entities and then you have to come back together afterwards, and like how that dynamic like shifts and changes things as well.
I feel like competition or competitive vibe too for women especially is such a like, I think it's so helpful to flip that perspective of like, maybe it's not competition that you're feeling. Maybe it's like just insecurity. And like I feel like women in general are made to feel insecure, or that like if you're not good enough. There's this like core belief that like you will have to work twice as hard as a man, or like you have to be better than all the other women to get any opportunity whatsoever. And I think that there's so much benefit to leaning on other women, and we lean on each other all the time. Like so often we're saying like, I definitely could not do this career path like without them, because it's just so it's a really tough road, and there are so many benefits to like doing it as a team, like sharing that load.
Yeah. And like I love that. Like changing the perspective too of things that you're not, like even between the three of us, if I'm like, oh, I'm not as good at that thing as Lauren and Quinn are, instead of that being like, oh, this is a lack on my end, it's just like we all have different strengths, right? And when we come together, it is like superpower, it feels like we have something that I feel don't have alone.
Yeah, it feels like it's greater than us.
Yes.
I think when we are singing together, it's
For the greater good.
I don't know, it kind of takes the ego out of it. Yeah, where it's like we're here like making music for the world, or just like for ourselves, or just whatever. And it's like, there are those elements like I like that are so emotional on stage, where one of them are singing a lead or doing a part, and it's like I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here supporting you in the background, and like you're having your moment, and I just like take a breath.
Yes. Yeah, thank God.
Like we always say, it's so funny, like people ask us a lot how we figure out who's singing the lead on which parts, and we are super intentional in the recording process, like the studio process, and figuring out, making sure that everybody has equal time and is singing the parts that they feel like moved to sing. But then once we're past that, we're all like, thank God I don't have to sing that, because it's so like, it just when you start touring the music, it just becomes an athletic thing. And you're just like, I can't physically do this every day.
So, I mean, we're talking about, the music industry, and it it can sometimes be savage, and pop culture and society at large, let's be real. But I mean, music industry especially, like there's a tend, like we're saying, to pit women against each other. There's also a tend to over-sexualize women in the media, especially like in a pop star space. And, you know, it's largely like from a male gaze. I'm just curious, like if you guys have had any experience, because you're also talking about like, you know, the three of you equally wanting to be equal parts of this project and have your moments on stage and everything. Like if you've experienced anything or if you've had the power to navigate it how you want to in terms of just like being at odds with the industry, but like specifically when it comes to like, has there been any challenges of like being over sexualized by like outside pressures or anything?
It's been subtle, but yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the most people have tried to potentially like pit us against each other has mainly been men making like side comments in the room to try to like say something to shake us a little bit of like that, like you sound really good on that, just like saying, or like this, like, oh, I'm kind of love, like very small things like that. But I think we've been very intentional since the beginning.
Yeah.
Even when we were in college, I think we were in music industry classes too.
Yeah.
And I think we took kind of like a more academic route with it of like what we learned in class, honestly, of staying independent as long as possible so that we could establish who we are very clearly, of like we're not just new artists with a lot of talent, that like we're moldable. It's like we've been doing this for 10 years and like you can hop on the train that's moving in this exact direction. Like we are moving it, and like you can hop on and like spend a little money to like make it chug faster, but like we're directing it.
Yeah.
And
You guys like
yeah.
developed yourselves. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've maintained like a lot of that control, I think, because we started at the beginning being so clear about, we really did. There were a lot of people that tried to tell us like what genre we were and that we kind of had to pick one. And from the beginning, we kind of always were like, we are many genres, like we're kind of genreless. And a lot of people really were like, that's not possible kind of thing. Yeah. And I think also we did this jumpsuit look for our first look, which felt really like kind of like we were flipping off the beauty standards of women in music, just like suiting up and getting ready for our show and kind of always highlighting our voices and like highlighting what it is that we're doing and like not making the focus our bodies.
Right.
But I also think now it's just about like what you feel sexy wearing and like how you feel the most comfortable performing. But yeah, we haven't really had a lot of people tell us like what to wear.
Yeah. I find it really funny that the term girl group is so widely used and like versus boy band. Or,
Right.
Like,
Oh,
the
Jenna and
SFI.
I are menaces because any band that like a guy, like if the drummer sings background vocals once, I'm like, you're a boy band. I will go up to a band afterwards. I'll be like, do you guys identify as a boy band?
Yeah.
And like sometimes they'll go along with it. Other times they're just kind of like, why? And I'm like, more than two of you sing, therefore boy bands. And it's my favorite thing to do. So I refer to everyone, like Fontaine's DC, I saw them the other day. They all sing. And I'm like, this is a boy band. They're a boy band. I'm like, the singer's wearing a skirt, a boy band.
It's so funny. So funny. Yeah. It's just it's interesting to see how those titles and those names land with different people. Because a lot of the times we just like to consider ourselves a band.
Right.
Versus like the fact that we need to be defined by our gender, right? Seems like a little off to me. But I think people love to categorize things. They love to, put people in boxes. We've honestly, I feel like this hasn't happened in a while. We usually don't get people trying to corner us being like, oh, I think like you're my favorite, or like this. Like that's always like the Hollywood stories. Like someone pulls one of the members aside and they're like, you could make it big on now. Right. And I think the reality for us is like I feel like we've all probably had that experience of someone being like, oh, you're my favorite, or like you're great, and we're all like, yeah, we know, like we all know we could have thriving solo career,
Right.
and we are choosing not to.
Yeah.
And like that's our choice, and that's not unbeknownst to us.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's just been enough years of us doing that consistently. And like sometimes like it has felt in the past, even with small things of like we're doing an interview and we all talk equally, and at the end of it, we see what the article is and it's one of us being quoted the whole time. And like it feels like overkill to people that don't really know how we work to be like, we all need to be.
Cool.
Yeah. And with things like that, it's like you have no control over that. And that's fine. And somebody just might have said things that fit where the story was going better. And you can't change that. But with things that we have control over, where we're the ones that are putting the story out to people to see, we're extremely intentional of making sure we're all equally seen. And it does sometimes, it can feel like a little shallow, or it feels like it's over the top, but it's just like adding to that, like more nails in that, like, I was gonna say coffin, that feels like really a negative of that painting that's on the wall. And I'm moving of like, this is who we are. We are all equally shining in this band. And I think we'll be in it for the rest of our lives that way if we want. And to like not do that and to let someone take the lead, I think that would be our downfall. Like, without a doubt.
I mean, it's really fascinating because like the point you made a minute ago was that you basically were able to develop yourselves and have been able to. And I think like having the knowledge of going to school and like having some industry background, it's like so many people get taken advantage of like at a young age because they don't know. And y'all were like, no, this is what we stand for. This is what like the three of us are agreeing on, and we're not gonna like settle for anything less. Like that by itself is like a powerful position to be in.
Yeah, totally. We have each other too, which is helpful.
Yeah. I want to go back and touch on, you were saying like the sexualizing aspect of it too. And I think that was something that we have talked about a lot as well, because there is just, for whatever reason, like whenever there's like we're saying a girl group, like they're so often just so over sexualized. And I think that even just like women in pop music, period, it is like pretty difficult to find an example of a woman performer that is not hypersexualized. And we've even talked about how even like female characters in a movie really show you that there's room for you, kind of like being able to see yourself reflected on the screen is so important, and it gives you this sort of permission to exist almost. And I think it's similar in music, where we were always kind of being like, where like I don't see us. Like, where are we? Like, I don't see myself being reflected in this, aside from maybe like country music stars, which is like a different kind of thing. That's just like sometimes can be like just ultra conservative, kind of more religious meaning. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not that either.
Right.
And it was really important for us to, like with the jumpsuits, kind of harkens back to like Rosie the Riveter. Also, we were trying to reference like Sgt. Pepper, I think, and just really emphasizing the fact that we really pride ourselves as like good musicians, good songwriters first. And letting that be the thing that is the headline.
And I feel like you make an interesting point too with like the country music thing, because like Jenna and I don't have like a lot of like background in country, but a couple years ago we had like an expert on country music come on the podcast to talk about like specifically women in country music and how like country started where it was like people of color and like blue collar workers and like women and people like creating this music as like a way to like feel seen and like build community, whatever. But now it's like the industry side of country, specifically radio, it is just like slamming the door in the face of especially women. I think it was like what, like 13% of like it was something really ridiculous.
No, it was like 97% of country radio.
It was like 70% maybe. It was like women. It was like really ridiculous.
Women of color.
Forget it. It's crazy. And so you guys like exist in this like kind of liminal space between like pop and country where like you could go either way. And so I'm curious like what your guys' experience has been of kind of existing like in a place where country fans will find you guys appealing, but pop fans will also find you appealing, but also it's like country radio is like three girls.
Yeah, I mean, we were told right at the beginning of like talking to people on the industry side in terms of radio specifically, that if we wanted to be on country radio, we had to commit 100% to being country artists. And that was it. If we wanted access to the space of country music and country radio, we could not be genreless. We could not have our foot in two different doors in any way. And so I feel like we were like, well, we don't want to just be country artists, so fine. And we like gave up on that dream anyway.
It's not to cut you off, but like it's it's actually crazy, like, how gatekeepy it is. Because, like,
Yes.
I mean, y'all are going on tour with Maren Morris later this year. She came out and said, like, I don't need to burn down the country music industry. It's doing it itself. And it's like that type of stuff where it's like, clearly there's an audience for this. Like, clearly there's a demographic and a space for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because like so much I did not grow up listening to country music, like classic country music at all. I just grew up listening to like good music, good songwriting, and I feel like country music that I love is just great songs. And like Casey Musgraves and Maren Morris are like examples of two women who have broken out of the country music scene and just been like, listen, I'm just a great songwriter and I have all this different taste. I feel like those are our kind of North Star examples whenever we're thinking about country music.
And it's also just like right now, country's having like a big renaissance in general, like across pop culture, and obviously Beyonce's album and everything, and Casey Musgraves and people wearing cowboy hats all the time. So it's really funny. It's like, and even for myself growing up in Texas, it's like there's things you can like about something and dislike about it, but like that doesn't disregard like what it's done for you or like what you find special about it. And, like the songwriting, it's true, like it's known for its songwriting, but there's obviously an audience there. Like there's obviously people who want to hear this. So it's like being yourselves, you're gonna end up finding those people.
Yeah, I feel like that's just been our goal, is to like follow the songs, continue to write things that we connect to, that we love, and make them sound like whatever they need to sound like for that to come across. And that might lean more country or more pop or more rock or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And to not box ourselves in anywhere, and just to make what feels good and hope that people will love it in the same way that we do. And then just keep doing that. And wherever that leads us, it might be more in a certain genre, but to not be doing it to get to some specific destination or to get access to some part of the industry, and just let the journey take us where it will, so that we can look back and be like, we're proud of every single song that we put out, and we love everything that we're still doing because it was just for us.
No, that makes sense. And that, like, I guess also like in regards to this fact that you are kind of like genreless and something along those lines, like we're saying, like country radio is very particular in like what they allow on the air.
Yeah.
What has your experience been with in regards to listeners, and like when you meet them and that kind of stuff? Is like, what background are they coming from? Like, are they interested in you because like the vocalizations, the harmonies you guys do sound like country, or are they interested because it feels like pop music, or what is it about it that you're like, oh, okay, this is what's going on?
It's so different, and it changes depending on what city we're in as well. Like I've definitely noticed if we're playing more in the South, or like areas that country music is more popular, you have more people coming up to us saying, oh, you guys are just like the chicks, and I just like the music I grew up listening to. And I like classic folk music. You have such a flavor for that. And then we're in New York, and we, get more a cappella fans, musical theater fans coming to us saying like, oh my gosh, it feels so good to be singing, to like see people singing together, and like that's like such a special quality. Yeah, it really changes city to city.
I do feel like something that people can consistently come up and talk to us about, though, is the content of the songs and like what that has meant for them listening to our music in whatever part of their life they're in. I didn't think about that until you just asked that question, but I feel like the main thing that has connected us with people is like the storytelling on both sides of like what we're telling in the music, and then what people are telling us of like what they've gone through in their lives and how our music has like impacted them in some way, and regardless of like what genre it is. Interesting.
We went on a tour with opening for Corey Wong. We have an incredible booking agent that has kind of been one of our first members of the team that really has like catapulted us into a lot of the new fans that we've received. But he got us this opening gig for Corey Wong, and so we have like a lot of people that come up to us after shows being like, oh, I saw you at this Corey Wong show. And I think a lot of those fans are like music nerd fans. I feel like people that are really interested in our arranging. And then I feel like we've also tapped into a queer space. It's really great because I'm queer. So
yeah, I feel like that's a huge part of our audience now. And it just feels so safe.
Yeah.
The audiences feel so
Well, it's also
safe.
the music, like we were listening, it's kind of genderless. So I mean, ask something.
Yeah, no, it is.
It can be what you want it to be. It doesn't have to be a song about a him or a her or they, you know.
Yep.
Totally. We only have one song that says he in it, and it was just we tried to not do that in so many different ways and like reworking the lyrics.
And that song said he.
It just didn't sing right. It like
Unfortunately, he said he. Unfortunately, he did not pass
honestly,
the Bechdel song.
Unfortunately, it did. It wasn't even for the meaning of it. It was like
The sound of the
the
word.
H. It was just easier to do he and end on a vowel. Like
The
the
timing.
the only reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew my armpit hairs long just so that I could show them at shows and people know that.
But that was beautiful. It's like you were saying, it's like, where do I see myself in like stars that exist? And it's like I don't. And so it's like there can be space for people who want to see you on stage and people who relate to that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, our sound engineer was telling me the other day, which I thought was so sweet, that at different points of tour, he like connects to each of us. He sees himself in each of us at different times. And I feel he was saying he thinks that that's like what some of our fans must feel too, of like, oh, I'm really connecting with Quinn and Georgia and Lauren, like even throughout the set per song, of, like just watching each of us do our thing. It's like so different.
I feel like also like our stage personas, or like what we tend to talk about, all kind of occupies like certain spaces too. I feel like I'm usually talking a lot about mental health, and I struggle a lot with like anxiety and depression. So I feel like I'm always kind of bringing that lens to the songs. And I feel like you also have that, and you're also like
Talking about like heartbreak,
relationships, talking like holding that space for I think queer people.
Yeah.
And I feel like Quinn is always like, she's so funny. She's hilarious comedian, and
Really true.
It's true.
Cannot deny.
I'm just keeping the lightness. I get serious too, and I think I feel very passionately. I think I can tap into my anger a little bit of like anger for women or for like marginalized communities that might be at our show and talking to the music industry and things like that. Yeah, I come at it with a little bit more of a bite.
and you use the comedy too to help make those points. And I also feel like we've been doing this for so long. We've had so many shows where we'll get to the venue and the people working at the venue are like, another girl group, they're not gonna be very good or whatever. And so just I think having all of those experiences and like having those guys at the end of the day be like, oh my God, you guys were amazing. Like, yeah, it's really good at being like, let's just show them.
Yeah, I love it. I love it when we walk into a venue and the guys are assholes to us and like they talk down to us. You just feel it immediately in the air. And I'm like, amazing. So nice to meet you. Like, give us just 3 hours and like, let's see what you say at the end of the show.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think you also are like, you really give us the acapella cred.
Oh, yeah.
Because Quinn is so big in the acapella, like that was such a big part of your story, and I feel like there's a whole the acapella community is ravenous. Is what I've learned as someone that like did not do acapella at all growing up. Seeing the community that has grown up around acapella and how beautiful that is, and it's fun to have like a window into that.
Harmony singers and acapella. I'll get really nerdy with people if they want to, which is great.
But so you guys have spent a lot of time on the road. So you've been able to connect with a lot of fans in person, but you also have grown your like followings on socials a lot. And it's like, these days with TikTok, it's like artists are expected to like give a lot of themselves and give a lot of themselves personally. Yes. And I'm curious how you've kind of navigated this balance of seeing fans in person and having to have in-person connections and having connections with fans on TikTok, and like how you as artists kind of like how much you give of yourself to them versus like having a little bit of distance.
I feel like having Trousdale as its own entity already creates more of a distance than a lot of people have. We're very fortunate in that way to have Trousdale be its own existing thing.
Yeah, because then it ends up being like Trousdale is something that we're all part of. And it's this thing that's like not us, we're part of it, but it's like outside of us. And so if there's somebody says something mean on the internet, they're not saying it mean about one of us. It's just like, oh, they just have that opinion of this thing that we
It's like their perception of it. That doesn't mean it's who you are.
Yeah. Versus I think that separation is really hard to maintain when you're a solo artist, because especially it's like you're going under your given name, and if someone says they think that you don't look good and that your music sucks, then ouch. Like that stuff is starting to seep into your own personal sense of self.
Mm-hmm. But if they're complimenting us, I will take that personally. 100%. That's just about me. But yeah, if it's something mean, it's like, okay, whatever.
Sometimes on TikTok with like the podcast account, people would be rude about the tone of my voice for some reason. I mean, you have a great tone. Thank you. So yeah. But coming from singer.
You're like coming from a bonus. I'd just be like, that's a you problem. Yeah. And I was like, I literally cannot do anything now.
Nothing you can do about it.
Oh, like that's a you problem, and maybe just watch somebody else's TikTok.
Or get different speakers or headphones, I guess. Like,
Okay,
that is your problem.
those things are always so funny to me, but I think also it's like I've been online my whole life. So I think I'm very like used to it, but it's interesting that you say that of like, oh, like we've created this other thing that's like not really us.
Right.
Because I found it interesting too how you guys kind of were like, oh, like we have like our uniforms that we wear, like we have like these things that we put on that like we step into this outfit and now we are Trousdale. And I find that so interesting because we talk a lot about like persona and like how that works. But I feel like it seems like for you guys, it's not even so much that as it's like, oh, like this is like our job.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you leave and it's like something else.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also we each bring out different parts of each other.
Yeah.
So when it's a Truesdale thing, I know that I'm not going to be like exactly Georgia the way that I am like at home with Mike. Because it's like, it's your friends bring out different parts of you.
Yeah.
And you're leaving space for everybody to be themselves. So yeah, like especially on social media, I think because we're all millennials. So I feel like I didn't grow up being like completely invested in like online platforms until I was like a little. I don't even feel like very personally attached to like anything that I put online at all. It all just feels like I think the performer in me comes over and it's like, this is just a performance. And if you don't like it, like it has literally nothing to do with who I am.
Right.
And like, I don't really care what you think.
Yeah.
I just don't care.
I think we can split up. We split up the time too with it of like, we're each putting a little something of ourselves in there, like on social media, and the basis of what we do on our social media accounts is not like letting you know who we are. It's more of like, we do in certain ways, but we're not like on being like, this is what I did today and this is my life and this is my personal thing. It's more of like, we're talking about the music and you can see who we are.
No, I noticed that. And I think that that's really cool. Because it's like, you said that about millennials. It's like, I was on MySpace, like in Line Journal. Like, it was like, I don't. So it's like, with that kind of thing, it's like, it's interesting how the internet has shifted. And I noticed that, like, you guys, as you were saying, it's like, even on your social platforms, it's like, you still just feel like a musical group, and it doesn't feel like I know too much about you, but I also feel like you can get your personalities by how you interact with each other and like all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's really cool because I feel like we are in this era where like there isn't that mystery anymore. And I like that we're like more connected, but also at the same time, it's like I miss that thing of like having to go pick up a magazine, having to like go listen to an interview, having this thing where because you just feel like you know this person even though you don't. And so I think it's really cool that you guys are just like truly a band, like an entity where it's like I go watch and I'm like, okay, like I know who they are as an artist rather than like anything else. And so I also wonder like how that affects your relationship with your fans, if you feel like it feels healthier for you guys too.
Yeah. I feel like we all definitely treat the social media aspect of our careers as like this is a job. And this is something that's like essential to our careers. But I don't think it necessarily it's not like our passion. Right. It's not why we got into music. Like we love songs and we love singing and writing songs. And that's the thing that we love to do. And there are so many other things that we do in any given day that are not those things.
Right.
Like I always say, a day where I can spend the whole day working on music is a lovely day, and it's a rare one, honestly, which is so funny because like that's why we got into it. But
yeah, I will say I feel like on the flip side, you know, social media is like such a blessing in a way to like so quickly be able to connect with the people that are listening to our music. And even like, you know, we still respond to like all the messages, and I mean we're a little behind right now because we're on tour, but we go through and we try to respond to as many as we can. And I think knowing that we have the capacity to like connect with people like with this thing in our hands is like really, really amazing. And we really care about making sure that everybody that tells us something like we respond to and we like hear it. And a lot of people will tell us like really personal stories about, you know, their lives and like things that they're connected to in our music. And to me, I think that's a part as much as it is a job. it's also, I think, a part of what keeps us going because we know that it's like what we're doing is connecting with people.
Right.
And it feels like it feels so worth it. Yes. Yes. Totally.
It sounds like you described earlier, because it's like Trousdale is kind of like a group, you're able to have that separation. It's
really just fascinating to hear how you guys have come to be and how you're approaching everything and able to, like we said, develop yourselves. So this has been such a lovely conversation. Unfortunately, it must come to an end. But we have one final question that we'd like to ask everyone who joins us on our show, which is that the ethos of this show is, and our podcast, is to empower fangirls, and we like to celebrate the things that we love unapologetically. So what are you all fangirls of?
Ooh. Oh my gosh.
Doesn't have to just be music. It can be anything you're just like weirdly obsessed with.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
I am obsessed with Florence Given on Instagram. I mean, on social media. She's like a writer, author, illustrator, like personality. I'm obsessed. I watch all of her videos. You guys both love her too.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah, huge fan of her. I think she's super amazing. Also,
She's all about women, supporting women too. She's just so confident, and her confidence oozes out of her, and she therefore just wants to support everyone.
Yeah.
Because she feels so good and
Oh my-
feel that.
and she's so smart. And sometimes she'll say things like, anyway, I'll get it. Huge fan of her. That's yeah. I'm feeling girly.
Lately, I've been unapologetically obsessed with like pistachio flavored things. I feel like even just on this tour, straight up. Also this Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the 1968.
Oh, I'm also obsessed with New York.
We're fangirls of New York.
Literally, I come here, I'm like,
I had another one I thought you were gonna say.
ASMR.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do love ASMR.
and you guys like that book, Court of Performance and Rose.
Oh yeah, Sarah J. Maas, unapologetically fangirl of romantasy books.
Somebody.
I know I have to.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren, Georgia, Quinn, thank you so much for joining us today, the lovely ladies of Trousdale.
Thank you for having us. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, this was a pleasure.
I love when we have borderline therapy sessions.
I love girl power.
I love girl power. I love girl talk. I love when we get to like sit there and genuinely relate to a band.
Yeah, for real.
Because
Yeah, that was fun.
just like their experience of being like best friends who work together, but also like the fact that they all come from like different backgrounds and all this kind of stuff, and like their views on like feminism and all these things. I feel like it was just such like a, oh my God, like we get each other. Like constantly just felt like, oh my God, you too? Oh my God, me too. Like what?
Yeah.
Like it was really, really cool.
And not only just relating to each other, but also to hear about their dynamic with their fans is so cool because, you know, as we mentioned, like country industry isn't always super friendly and nice to women in music. And they've been able to find their niche in their community. And it's also one of those things where it's like they each kind of have like a different thing that they really care about and identify with and talk about on stage.
Yeah,
There's,
true.
like, mental health or LGBTQ matters. So it's like for audience members, they're able to like really like identify with a lot of different topics and just themes throughout their music. And so even just hearing the relationship with fans has been super cool.
No, definitely. They have something to offer for everybody, which I think is so beautiful about a group. So we hope you enjoyed that interview that we did today with Trousdale. I know that we really did. Obviously, we could wax poetically again about them forever, but we will not do that to you guys. So if you have any thoughts or feelings, you can come join us on Substack in the chat to let us know about your thoughts about the interview. Give us any insight you felt like you really resonated with from like what we were talking about with them, because I feel like, again, like Jenna said, like our conversation about their fans and about their music and like the ways in which we can all relate to them is like really interesting, and it'd be really cool to hear about how you guys feel like you can relate to them even if you've never listened to them before. So as well as on our Substack, which is name3songs.substack.com, you can also come and chat with us personally on social media. I'm at Sarah_Fagan and Jenna is at Jenna_million. And so with all of that, thanks for joining us this week on Name 3 Songs. And until next time, never let anyone make you feel bad about your favorite band.
Remember, you're never too cool to listen to Addison Rae.
Don't forget to subscribe to be notified when new episodes come out. And if you're listening to this on something where you can give us a review, please give us a 5-star one because they really help.
If you want to find out more about anything we talked about in this episode, you can visit name3songs.substack.com.